The rain hit the London asphalt like scattered glass, each droplet refracting the gray city into miniature worlds. Amelia Clark tightened her thin scarf, shivering beneath the soaked umbrella. Steam rose from the cafe across the street, curling into the mist like a promise she didn't feel she deserved. Her shoes, worn through at the toes, splashed through shallow puddles as she crossed the crowded street, her tray of takeaway coffees wobbling precariously. The traffic lights changed. Horns honked, and a sharp voice yelled at a cyclist weaving dangerously close. Amelia froze mid-step as she noticed an old man hesitating at the curb. His coat was frayed, hands shaking with the weight of time and cold. Most people simply ignored him, absorbed in their umbrellas and screens. But something in his hesitant gaze, the tiny tremor in his wrist, drew her forward. "Sir, do you need help?" she called, her voice soft but steady. He looked up, surprised, then nodded with a faint, grateful smile. He had a small cane, its wood worn smooth by years of use. Amelia slid her hand under his elbow, guiding him across the rain-slicked road. Cars slowed, drivers muttered impatiently, but she didn't care. She felt a strange connection to him, like she was standing in the echo of someone else's memory. Halfway across, a black SUV honked sharply. Amelia flinched, gripping the man tighter. "Careful," she murmured. He chuckled, a dry, fragile sound that made her heart tighten. "It's been years since someone offered me a hand without asking for something." They reached the sidewalk safely. Amelia brushed rain from her face. "It's nothing. Everyone deserves a little kindness." He tipped his head, and his eyes gleamed under the streetlights. "Maybe so. You have a good heart, young lady." He shuffled away slowly, cane tapping like a heartbeat on the wet pavement. Amelia turned back toward her cafe shift, ignoring the sting of cold rain on her hands and the dull ache in her back. Inside the cafe, the warmth was immediate. Espresso machines hissed. The smell of baked pastries wrapped around her like a brief comfort. Her manager, a brusque woman with sharp eyeliner, frowned at her dripping coat. "Late again, Clark?" "Sorry," Amelia mumbled, drying her hair with a rag. She glanced at the tray of orders waiting, trying not to notice the tip jar nearly empty. Her paycheck wouldn't cover rent this month. She sighed, eyes catching the reflection in the glass, a scarred wallet lying forgotten on the counter from a previous customer. She touched it gently, remembering a time she had nothing at all and had prayed for a small act of kindness. The group of regulars entered, laughing loudly. One of them, a man in an expensive overcoat, glanced at her with barely concealed amusement. "Careful with those shoes, love," he said, smirking. "Wouldn't want you slipping in the rain." Amelia forced a smile. She straightened the tray, feeling her fingers grow stiff from cold and fatigue. Her day was a blur of orders, spilled coffee, and polite nods. But in the back of her mind, she kept replaying the old man on the street, the way he had looked at her like she mattered. It was a small, almost imperceptible warmth in her chest, as the cafe's clock neared closing. She hung her wet coat on the hook and started wiping down tables. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. Across the street, the neon sign of a jewelry store flickered, throwing red and gold light across the slick pavement. She paused for a moment, hands resting on the counter, and wondered if kindness ever truly mattered in a city that moved too fast. Her phone buzzed, a text from her landlord reminding her rent was due. The weight of her reality pressed down on her like the clouds above. Still, she smiled faintly, recalling the old man's words. She'd helped him without thinking of reward. Maybe, she thought, that mattered more than anything else today. The next morning, Amelia trudged to work, exhausted and soaked from a morning drizzle. She wore her threadbare coat, her shoes still damp, and tried to ignore the sharp wind biting at her fingers. As she pushed open the cafe door, a sharp hum of a limousine engine caught her attention. Outside, a sleek black limo idled, tinted windows glinting in the weak sunlight. A uniformed driver stepped out, holding a polished silver envelope. Amelia froze. Her name was written in elegant script, Ms. Amelia Clark. This is for me," she asked, voice small, unsure. The driver inclined his head politely. "Yes, ma'am. Please." Inside the limo, it was warm, leather seats gleaming, a faint scent of roses in the air. Amelia sank into the chair, heart hammering. She opened the envelope. Inside was a note in delicate handwriting. You helped me yesterday when the world ignored me. I'd like to repay your kindness. Join me for lunch. The address is enclosed." Her mind raced. Who was this? The old man. Could it be? She glanced at her reflection in the tinted window. Her hair was still damp, her face pale, but something sparkled in her eyes. Curiosity, disbelief, and a touch of hope to the restaurant. The doors opened to a private dining room overlooking the Thames. The old man was there, seated at a corner table with a reserved smile. Amelia approached cautiously, unsure of how to behave in such grandeur. "Amelia," he said warmly, "thank you for helping me yesterday. You didn't know it, but you reminded me of something important, that kindness exists even when the world has forgotten it." I, I didn't expect anything." Amelia stammered. He waved her words away. "I insist. Please sit." The lunch was a strange, surreal experience. Silver cutlery gleamed under soft chandeliers, and the food smelled like art. Amelia's hands hovered nervously over her plate. Conversation flowed, but the real story was in the old man's eyes, a lifetime of wisdom, regret, and gratitude shining in the corners of his gaze. That he leaned forward. "I wasn't always like this," he admitted, voice low. "I had wealth, power, and influence. I forgot what mattered, compassion, humanity. But yesterday, in that moment, you reminded me, and I want to offer you an opportunity." Amelia's heart skipped a beat. "An opportunity?" "Yes," he smiled. "I want you to join a foundation I run, helping others. Real people, real struggles. You understand kindness. You see the world as it truly is. I want you to help me make it better." The words tumbled over each other in her mind. Shock, excitement, fear. Could someone like her, just a barista barely making ends meet, really be part of something this immense? The old man watched her silently, gauging her reaction. "You don't need to answer today, but think about what your life could become if you allowed yourself to step into it." Amelia left the restaurant in a daze. The city looked different, brighter, somehow, as if the rain had polished it overnight. She thought about the hands she had held, the lives she had brushed past. Could she really do more than just survive? Could she help others the way she had helped him? That evening, at the cafe, she recounted the story to her manager. Her manager's eyebrows shot up. "Are you serious? That's insane." Amelia smiled faintly, tracing the scarred edge of a coffee cup. Maybe kindness really does come back around. Over the next few weeks, Amelia began working with the foundation. She visited shelters, schools, and neighborhoods where small acts of kindness could ripple into profound change. She learned the intricacies of charitable work, fundraising, organizing, and speaking with those who had been forgotten. Her mornings still began with rain and early shifts at the cafe, a tether to her life before. But every day, she returned home knowing she was part of something larger. The old man, whose name she now knew was Edward Whitaker, became both mentor and friend. One rainy afternoon, she returned to the street where she had first helped Edward. A young boy sat on the curb, shivering, no coat, no shoes. Amelia knelt, offering her scarf and a cup of warm tea. "It's okay," she said softly. "You're not alone." He looked up at her, wide-eyed. She saw herself in him, the uncertainty, the fear, the quiet longing for someone to care. She gave him her hand, guiding him across the puddles. As they reached the sidewalk, Edward appeared, leaning on his cane. "I see kindness passing forward," he said, eyes shining. "You're not just helping others. You're changing the world." The city lights flickered on as Amelia walked home later that evening. She paused, looking at the reflection of the street in a puddle. The same street where her small act had sparked a chain of events she could never have imagined. She smiled, her heart full, and felt the quiet weight of purpose settle around her. In that moment, Amelia realized that wealth, fame, or success meant nothing without compassion. True impact was measured in human connection, in the lives touched by small acts that required nothing but courage and care. Moral: true wealth isn't measured by fortune, but by how much of it you give back.